Hey, what's up guys? Phil coming at you with another epic pull list video, and this video is going to collect the last few weeks of January. I think it's the last 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. Not too many big titles, well not too many big amounts of books for me. I think a lot of my stuff came out in the first week of January, but again, I'm not buying as many books per week as I used to, if you saw on the early stages of this channel. But basically, I used to buy in 1 week, I now buy in like a month. So that's a lot better for the wallet and a lot more fun to enjoy. So anyway, guys, let us jump into the books. Starting off with DC Plus, we have Batgirl 31. So this is continuing the whole political kind of like mayor of Gotham arc that's going on. And yes, yet we still don't have any references to Grayson's book at all. Like, the only book that seems to be within the Bat family that seems to be actually referencing what's going on in the Nightwing book is Batman Beyond, and that's really weird. I figured that considering how close, I've said this in other videos, but considering how close Barbara and Dick were getting again in the comics, particularly in Batgirl 25, which came out like right before Nightwing 50, I figured that, there'd be some kind of reference to it, but there's absolutely nothing. So it's almost like they're trying to completely remove what's happening in the Nightwing book from everything else that's happening in the Bat family stuff, and it's starting to get really frustrating. I know that they are talking about, I think there's hope, because there is a writer change coming very soon on Nightwing, I think in the next few months it might be. I can't remember exactly when the new creative team's jumping over, but hopefully there'll be end of the Rick Grayson stuff. We don't know, but Batgirl's pretty consistent. Nothing really to love about the book, this particular book right here. Art's great, but does introduce a new villain, basically who's hired to murder a bunch of people. So that's pretty interesting. A little bit of detective work going on there. We have 2 issues of Titans, issues 32. The origin of Mother Blood, so obviously a reference to Brother Blood. Titans, I guess, the only reason, I think I've said this before, the only reason I'm still buying Titans is because of Donna and Raven. If, Wonder Girl, if Donna and Raven weren't in this book, I would drop it. All the characters I started reading this book for are either dead or not in the book. So obviously you've got I started reading the book because it was Nightwing, Wally, and Donna all in the same book, along with Roy as well. And of course, Roy and Wally are dead. Dick got a bullet to the brain. So it's literally just Donna and Raven is the only reason I'm reading this book. And if either of them do leave the team, I guess that's it for this book. But I do think it's really cool. Like, in the last couple of issues, Kyle Rayner actually joined the team. I'm not sure if he's going to be here as a permanent member, but it's still nice to have a Green Lantern on the Teen Titans, because they've never, or on the Titans team, because they've never had a Lantern before, far as I'm aware. We also have issue 33, so this is some more stuff about Raven. Again, one of the only reasons I'm reading the book is because it's all about, they're focusing a lot on Raven. So pretty cool. This is definitely a tie back to one of the earlier issues where like Raven went away and like her subconscious mind was still trapped in this alternate dimension. So that's pretty cool. Next up we have probably one of my favorite books out of I think the book I enjoyed reading one of the books I enjoyed reading the most out of this lot was Batman Beyond 28. So this book is just, I don't know, this book just fails to get boring. I don't know why. Like, not too much really happens in this particular issue, but they've brought back, quote unquote, the original Joker. He claims to be the original Joker. We don't know if that's the case. But this is definitely a nice homage, this issue, to like death in the family, and they even tease at the end of this, basically they're kind of like suggesting, based on like the artwork and the covers and everything, like could they be teasing it, Robin versus Joker. Pretty cool stuff. And Dick Grayson is starting to do a lot more in this book. I feel that's kind of like the writers maybe thinking like, oh, he's doing nothing in his own book, maybe we'll do something with him in our book. Speaking of Raven, we have issue 12 of Raven, Daughter of Darkness, and this is the final issue of this miniseries. Whether or not they do another Raven miniseries, I'm not sure. I think Daughter of Darkness did pretty well. I know that the original Raven miniseries, well, not the original one, the one that came out, I think 2 years ago now, did really, really well, which is why they did Daughter of Darkness. I kind of got, like, lost, a little bit really confused about what was going on in Daughter of Darkness about halfway through. I think if you watch some of the earlier pickup videos I've done, or pull list videos, I rave about the book because I loved it at the start. And it just became, like, too much. And then I've recently read the miniseries from a few years ago, and I felt like it wasn't long enough. So I don't think they've found the right balance of lengthiness of the right length. So hopefully, are there like maybe 8 issues? So maybe if they do start another Raven miniseries up again this year, they might seem to get the length right, because I felt like this is actually like a pretty big full on book. There's a lot of characters in this, and I literally knew very few of them, but it's all like their mystical, magical characters altogether. Other than like Clarion, literally knew like no other characters apart from Raven and Clarion in this. So yeah, it's still a really good book. Like if you love Raven, obviously Marv Wolfman knows how to write the character he co-created. He's written all 3 Raven miniseries. So it's nice to see that he gets to work with his character again. And Raven's such a great character. So obviously, if you're a fan of Raven, you've obviously picked this up. If you are a fan of Raven from like the Teen Titans TV show, or if you've watched Titans on Netflix, definitely read the Raven comics, because they're obviously going to give you much more about Raven and more of a truer. Not that the TV version or the Titans version is not accurate, but this is more of like a real, more comic book accurate version of her to how she originally was, as opposed to how she's kind of depicted in the TV show, which is a lot more angsty in a way, if that kind of makes sense. You know, she in these comics, she's more she's kind of less angsty, more into her character. I know they're building it on the show, but definitely, if you're a fan of Raven, you got to pick up the Raven books, obviously. Moving away from DC for the regulars, we have Sonic number 12. Okay, I've talked about the Sonic comic a lot, and basically when IDW was writing it, everyone loved it, was publishing it, it was brilliant. And then Archie was publishing it, and then IDW took over and did a huge job of promoting it, basically. And now but they also promoted it the way it was written. It was like a seamless transition. This is, you know, it was a new start back when they went to issue 1, but all your favorite characters from the games were there. I mean, they couldn't use any of the Archie characters, which is a shame because of how popular a lot of those characters were, like Sally and all that, and especially all the Knuckles stuff. But you know, this basically feels like a video game comic should. It's you know, the Archie stuff was more than a video game comic. It was an actual comic with an overall world building and story. And I know this has the same creative team, but this basically feels like a video game comic. It's Sonic in a comic. So if anything was more world building and more like epic stories, you know, you check out the Archie stuff, but the IDW stuff is very consistent. You know, if you're reading all the Archie stuff and obviously taking a few years off because we couldn't get them here in Australia, and then jumping back into IDW Sonic, seamless transition, because it's what you get. You know, they got the same creative team, so that's what you want. This is a wrap up to the first arc as well. So it was a 12-issue arc. That's pretty big, especially for a brand new comic. Technically a new comic starting, but definitely worth reading if you're a huge fan of Sonic. Next up we have one Dark Horse book, which is Aliens Resistance. So this is actually a crossover between one of the characters from Aliens Defiance and Aliens... Oh, not Fire and Stone. Dust to Dust, that's it. So crossover for a character from Dust to Dust and Resistance, which is really nice, bringing those two storylines into one book, which is something that they're trying to do a little bit more of with the Alien and Predator comics now, as opposed to what they've done in the past. I know all the AVP books were linked, but now it's like, all the, you know, what they did with like Fire and Stone and Life and Death were just really fantastic ideas. Like the perfect way to launch the new AVP stuff was to have a massive crossover, and it's cool that the Alien books are starting to cross over with each other again. And then they also did Predator and Predator Hunters 2, which was really nice. I'd love to see another, you know, event crossing over the 4 books again, or even some more just an ongoing AVP book, because at the moment they're very much separate, going in separate directions, but I'd love to see them come back together. And it's always nice looking up, you know, the Alien and Predator stuff, because especially when you read a lot of superhero stuff, you get very used to a very specific style of writing or a very specific art style, but then checking out an Alien and a Predator or a Predator book, or that's just for example, you know, you look at indie books more, you know, with different art styles, it's nice to see, you know, you get your eyes see something new. So very nice. If you guys only read superhero books, I definitely recommend you go check out something a little bit different, just so you don't get... So you get a little bit like of a feel for something else, like so you don't get just completely immersed in superhero comics. And I know I'm very guilty of that with what videos you can see, but yeah, it's nice to read stuff like that outside the norm. So next up we have Marvel, and we have one Marvel book, which is Venom number 10. So what can I say? I love Venom, and everybody knows that the current Venom run is probably one of the best runs the character has had in his 30-year history, right? What they're doing with Eddie, and what they're doing with not just with Eddie, but with the history of the symbiote as well, is fantastic. Now, I got a little bit annoyed a few issues ago, spoiler alert if you're not reading this, but if you're a Marvel fan or a Spider-Man fan, you will be reading this. But basically they kind of, like, when Eddie fought Null, or the dragon, I can't remember if it was Null, or it was Null and the dragon, I think. Basically his symbiote, or his Clintar, lost all its personality, and basically the symbiote became brain dead, and it's a little bit weird. So they're not really focusing on the symbiote aspect too much compared to what we saw in the previous Venom run, where the Clintar itself was very much a character speaking to Eddie and doing things, and it was more about their relationship. But now it's still about their relationship, but they're definitely focusing around Eddie more as a character, and I think that's a really cool idea. Because, like, a lot of the Venom, like I said, was focused around the relationship, and you look at some older Venom comics, like the Daniel Way run, it was very much symbiote focused, it wasn't Eddie focused. And the stuff they're doing with Eddie is really cool. Like, we get some more details about Eddie's backstory, about why his dad hates him, because, you know, we know that his dad hated him, and they kind of touched that a bit on that in Dark Origin a few years ago. Now, oh god, that would have been a lot. That was like, what? Oh, that's an old comic. It's like 6-7 years ago now, or something like that. But it's nice to see a new, interesting take on, you know, Eddie's origin, because they redid the symbiote origin kind of, so they're kind of working on Eddie's origin too, and it's really cool. And finally, guys, we have those back issues I was talking about. We have issues 1 to 6 of the original Raven, or not the original, I keep saying the original, but it's not, the Raven miniseries from 2016, I believe. So I actually really enjoyed this, but like I was saying before with Daughter of Darkness, this miniseries was only 6 issues, and basically was a very contained story. I'm not saying the Daughter of Darkness isn't contained either, but this is basically just one issue that they deal with, where Daughter of Darkness really does expand on that a lot more. I think it's because Daughter of Darkness was also more pages. Was more than the usual. I think Daughter of Darkness was like 30 pages or something, when, where the Raven, or what I think it's called White Carnival, I believe. The White Carnival is the sub-name of the book, was only about 20 pages, so obviously had a lot more material and a lot more pages to write about. But I feel the White Carnival was a little bit too thin, if you will. Definitely, it left me wanting a lot more than Daughter of Darkness did. Daughter of Darkness definitely left me more, like, gave me like almost too much Raven, or too much going on, or it was too much not focused on Raven because there was too many other characters, and I kind of got lost in the large cast, where this was very much focused just on Raven. So if you guys are definitely huge fans of Raven, like I said, this is definitely something I recommend starting off with. Definitely a great run. Not too old, so it shouldn't be too hard to pick up. I think the trade is still in print as well. But anyway, guys, that's it for my pull list for the last few weeks. What did you guys grab in your pull list? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you guys would like to see a full review of Raven the White Carnival, please let me know in the comments below, as well as anything else here you'd like to see a review on, like Venom. If you like my comic thoughts video on on the Nightwing run, if you'd like my thoughts on the Venom run so far, I'm happy to do a video about that as well.